How to start in property with no money. Hey, it's Chris here from Property Abundance, and you're joining me in my hotel room because I'm at one of our events right now. But luckily, my business partner Sam is running his content session. So I thought I'd just jump upstairs, get one of my YouTube videos recorded for you guys. And in this session, we are going to talk about how you can start building your property business when you don't have money to start with. Now, the first and probably best news for you is that needing money for investing in property is a myth. There needs to be money, but nobody ever said it has to be your money. Okay, now firstly, if you have money, that's great. Look, you have more options, sure. There's more strategies you can do. You can do things like buy, refurbish, refinance. You can buy and hold property if you've got loads of money. But the thing is, as soon as you rely on your own money to build your business, there is a finite amount of growth that you can do. Okay, what do I mean by that? Well, let's say you've saved up 50 grand. Okay, and you've got £50,000. That's a good size deposit to go and be able to buy a house somewhere, right? But the problem is, as soon as you buy that house, unless you fully recycle all the cash out of it, you've eroded the amount of capital that you have left to invest. So if you invest it into one house and you buy and hold that house, you're done. Okay, that's all the investing you can do. So great, you saved up 50K, you bought one house. Done. The issue is, unless you learn how to use other people's money, there will always be a finite amount of growing that you can do in your property business. Okay, now, even after 7 years in property, even after building a multi-million-pound property company, I still use other people's money. I never want my own finances to be what limits the amount of growth that I do. So the great news for you, if you're starting from a position of no money, is that that's fine. Okay, there's tons of strategies that you can do. Now, by the way, if you find this kind of video useful, please do me a massive favor, hit the like button, drop me a comment down below, and subscribe to the channel for regular property content updates straight out of my own business as I figure out what's working best in the market right now, content on exactly how to do certain things within property. So make sure you subscribe to stay fully up to date on that. Now, look, we have clients that come to us in a range of positions. We have people that come to us already running 6-figure businesses and say, Chris, look, I want to turn this into a 7-figure business. We also have tons of people that come to us and say, look, I've never even heard of property before, but I want to start building a business in property and I have no money. Now, if that's you, don't freak out, okay? There's tons of ways you can do it. And in this video, we're going to give you a rundown of the best strategies for starting when you have absolutely no cash. Now, the first is what I call a little money down strategy. Now, if you've got a little bit of money, but not huge sums that you can afford to buy houses, you may be benefiting from rent to rent. Now, rent to rent is a fantastic strategy. I've recorded a video previous to this called The Exact Steps of Rent to Rent. That breaks down exactly what you do in order to get your rent to rent deals up, running, and profitable as quickly as possible. So go and check that out. That's in our video library. But at a high level, what is rent to rent? This is where you lease a property from somebody and you have their permission to rent it out to your own clients as well. Now, in the most basic form, you might rent a flat, try and charge an extra 100 quid and rent it out for £100 more, and you make £100 profit in the middle. The trouble is that that's small margins and it's not creating wealth. And as soon as you have 1 month void, you've wiped out the next 10 months of profit, because you still have to pay £1,000 for that flat, right? But you now have 1 month where you're not making your £1,100, and therefore it's going to take you another 10 months of £100 a month profit to recoup that loss. So what you need to do if you're going to do rent to rent is combine the rental, the acquisition strategy of rent to rent, with an application strategy of serviced accommodation or HMOs. This is where we either run properties and rent them out by the room, or we run a property and we rent it out by the night. Okay, so rent to rent is one of the fantastic ways to start with little money. Now, if you're going to set up a serviced apartment, you're going to need still around about £5,000, some higher, some lower, to get that property off the ground and get it launched. For an HMO, again, depending on the range of property, depending on the amount of work required, if it's already got a license or it doesn't, you might spend up to £7,000 or £8,000 doing the conversion works. To give you an idea, the cheapest rent to rent deal that I've ever done was just £1,000. And then we make £1,000 a month on it. So we made 1,200% return on our investment. Now, look, not every deal's like that, don't get me wrong, but those deals are out there. So rent to rent is your first strategy that can be a great starting point if you're starting with no money. The next one is management. Okay, now this is where you're providing much more of a service-based or much more of a service to other investors. Now, you may take over the operations of existing HMOs, existing service departments, or even just standard single lets, and you charge a management fee for providing the operations. And that means you'll go and find tenants for them, you'll deal with any like maintenance issues in the house, you'll basically make sure the whole thing runs smoothly for the property owner so that they can basically have a hands-off investment, and you make your money by charging them a percentage of the rent that you generate for them, plus tenant finding fees as well. So if you're running an HMO or a single let, every time you need to find them a tenant, you'll also charge them a tenant find fee plus a management fee as a percentage of the monthly revenue. From a service department perspective, again, if you're getting direct bookings coming in, you might charge a commission on those, but you're charging your management fee based on the overall revenue that you generate for that owner. So again, the more you make for the owner, the more you make for yourself. So everybody's winning, everyone's fully incentivized. It's a great deal for the owner because they know that the more that they make, the more you make, so you're fully incentivized, and they are very happy, obviously, with the idea of not having to do anything to get the income from that property being run as a service department. Now, maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe you don't want to be involved in the operations, and that's cool. There's plenty of other strategies as well. The next one we're going to talk about is deal sourcing. Now, there are investors like me. There's thousands of other investors that invest in property, run service department and HMO businesses as well, that are always looking for deals. Now, sourcing is a very key skill set of running a property business. It's one of the things that we have an entire module on in some of our training events because it's such a key skill. If you can source property deals, then there's no limit to the growth or the number of deals that you can do, as long as you know how to raise finance as well. Now, the issue is that sometimes people struggle with sourcing their own deals, and that's a skill that people don't want to learn. Sometimes it can be a bit scary to put yourself out there in front of an agent and try and pitch people. And sometimes instead, people would prefer to pay somebody else to find their deals for them. And they'll pay them a fee to go and source. For example, let's say I had a team of contractors come to us in trade stays, and they said, we need, a 5-bedroom house for the next 6 months. And so we want to set up a property specifically for this team to accommodate them. Well, I might, instead of, if I didn't have the resource in-house, I might hire a deal sourcer and say, hey, look, find me a 5-bedroom house that has an HMO license and is in this part of town and is no more expensive than Let's Go. And if they find that, I pay them a fee. Now, typically, deal sourcers are charging around about £3,000 a month for the deal, but different deal sources charge different fees. Now, $3,000 is kind of a standard industry standard that a lot of people are charging. Other deal sources, and personally, I think this is a more intelligent way of doing it, are charging based on value. So if it's a smaller profit margin on the deal that they've sourced, they charge a lower fee. If it's a massive profit margin or a massive opportunity for capital growth, then they charge a bigger fee. And personally, if I was going to be deal sourcing, that's the way I'd be going. But you don't need any money to start this one at all. Same with management. You don't need money to be able to start sourcing deals for people. You just need contacts. So if you want to start a deal sourcing business and start earning around about £3,000 per deal sourced, make sure you drop me in the comments. I can let you know how you can get started with that as well. We're always working with deal sources in my own business as well, even though we have our internal resource, just because we have such a steep growth plan right now. So if you're interested in learning how to do deal sourcing, check out the description down below as well. You'll find a few resources there for you. Now, the next one we're going to talk about is one that I used at the very start of my business when I didn't really have any money to invest, and that's called joint venturing. Now, look, there's tons of ways that you can joint venture. Now, you could joint venture with somebody who's got money but doesn't know what to do with it. You could joint venture with a property owner who wants to run it as a service department but doesn't know how. You could joint venture with people in different geographical locations to give you more spread. Okay, the concept of a JV is just two people working together to achieve an objective. So in the instance of what we're talking about right now, so best strategies for starting with no money, there's two that work really well. Firstly is joint venturing with an owner of a property. Now, this is what I did and how I did my first ever property deal back in 2016. I met a landlord at a networking event. It was actually Watford networking event. And he wanted to run his property as a service department, but he didn't have the time and he didn't have the knowledge. But he did know that if he ran it as a service department, he would make a lot more money than just as a standard buy-to-let. So he wanted to work with someone. He wanted to work with somebody who was energetic, who was hungry to grow. And even though I hadn't got any experience, because I'd got a mentor behind me and I'd kind of done the training and I understood what I was doing with it, to a degree without actually having done it yet, he was happy to kind of give me a shot on this. So he invested money in raising the standard of the property, bringing it up to a decent standard in which we could rent it out for serviced accommodation. I gave him an earnings forecast by checking how much I think we'd be able to charge per night and how many nights a month I thought we'd be able to sell. And then we started to work together. Now, the first amount of rent that he could get renting it out on the open market, that money went to him. And then any profit that I generated above that, we shared. So I only made money if he made more money than he would typically. It's a great deal for him because he's guaranteeing additional income. And, he knows he's working with someone who's fully incentivized as well to make sure this works because, unless I don't get paid unless he's making more money. So really, really great way to structure a JV. The second kind of joint venture you can do is joint venturing with people with money. Now, again, this is something that I've done a lot of throughout my own journey. I've raised several million of joint venture finance over the 7 years we've been operating. And we use other people's money, we invest other people's money into our deals and give them a much better rate of return than they would get with that money sitting in the bank. Now more than ever, this is a huge opportunity. Because right now, here in the UK, we have high inflation, right? I think we're still double digits. I think it's over 10%. Now, if you've got 10%, or so, in fact, let's just change the numbers. Let's say you've got £500,000 sat in the bank, okay? Good problem to have, right? But if you've got £500,000 sat in the bank and inflation's sitting there at 10%, that 10% is chopping away at the value of your money at a phenomenal rate. Okay, it's costing that person £50,000 a year to have that money sat in the bank. So we offer them an alternative. We say, well, look, come and work with us. Let put your money to work. Let us invest your money into property for you. These are the kind of projects we're doing. And we put that money to work for them, paying them a rate of return on their money that is way better than their bank, but is also a great source of equity for us to be able to do deal after deal after deal after deal. And after every deal, when we pay the investor back, guess what? They've got that same problem again. If you pay them back plus profit, let's say they lent us £500,000 for a big project, we did the project, we gave them their £500,000 back plus an extra 70 grand. Well, now they've got 570 grand sat in the bank account eroding in value. So once you get one good investor on board, that can fund your deal after deal after deal, because every time you pay them back, they now have that same problem that they had at the start when they wanted to work with you. So joint venturing and working with other people's money is a massive opportunity, especially right now. And then finally is working with investors. Okay, now this is, and by investors, I mean people already in the game, people like me, people like my business partners, people, tons of investors in the industry. Now, we work with people in multiple different capacities. When we have, at our training events, we offer people the opportunity, if they have deals in certain towns where they if we haven't got a presence and they need money for their deal, we'll invest in it. If the deal stacks, you'll find the money. Okay, money's everywhere. And this is one of the big points I want to get across in this, is even if you're starting with no money, that is not a problem because money is everywhere. This was one of the biggest wake-up calls for me in my own property journey as well, right at the start, when I had a bit of money saved up, but not really enough. And I just thought, well, how am I going to get this going? How am I going to actually start building this business? And it wasn't until one of my mentors pointed out that actually, do you know what? Money's everywhere. You just don't see it because you're not looking for it, because you don't know how to look for it. That I realized, actually, do you know what? You're right. There's so many wealthy people out there with cash sitting around that they don't know what to do with. So if you want to learn how to work with these people, if you want to learn how to find them and you want to learn a bit more about this stuff and how you can actually get started, even if you're starting from a point of no money, we're actually offering some free consultation calls with one of my team. You get 30 minutes on the phone with them, one-to-one, completely free of charge. Okay, now on that call, we're going to understand where you are right now, what it is you're looking to achieve, and what kind of resources you have available to you to get going. And then we'll advise you on what your next steps should be, so that you have total clarity by the end of that call of what you can do next. So if you want to grab one of those free consultation calls, check the description down below. There's a link down there in the description. If you've enjoyed this video, if you found this useful and you've realized, actually, do you know what, Chris, you're right, I don't need money to start. There are tons of people out there. There's loads of sources of finance. And if the deal stacks up, I can find money for it. Please drop a comment. Please subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out. And please do like this video as well. Other than that, guys, have a great day and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.